You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted, a conversation on Christian ministry and the Christian life.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Josiah Walker.
I'm Bryan Catherman.
Hey, I don't know if you listen to this. Yes, you do. Bible Talk.
Yep. Bible Talk's awesome. Yeah. That's if you don't listen to that podcast, forget this podcast.
Turn this one off. Go listen to Bible Talk.
Bible Talk. It's one of the 9 Marks ones.
Yeah, one of the 9 Marks podcasts.
We love the preacher's talk.
Yep.
The pastor's talk's pretty good. That Bible Talk.
That's really good.
It's awesome.
Because it has Dr. Hamilton on that.
Oh, yeah, Jim Hamilton's awesome.
And Dr. Amati.
Yeah, which not the Amati that's been on this podcast.
Sure.
His brother.
His brother, right?
Yep.
Not the one we know. But I saw that they just celebrated their 100th episode.
Woohoo for them.
100
good
episodes of that. How many episodes have we done? I mean, you've been doing Salty Believer for a long time. Do you know what episode we're on?
Yes, because you said, what episode are we on, right before we hit record.
True.
And I said, I don't know, but I'll look. We have done 523, and this is the 524th.
I was really excited because I thought Bible Talk just did 100. They celebrated. We should do something special for our 500th episode.
Well, that would have been months ago.
And we blew past it.
We just blew past it.
Because you are not about like marketing or really advertising this podcast. You kind of like fly under the radar
I
with
probably
this thing.
should be better about it, but yeah.
But here we are. And as we've been
Wait. What if next time we celebrate our 525th episode?
Yeah, that one will be amazing. Tune in for that one. It'll be something
next
special.
week, 525th.
But you're doing some stuff to kind of remember the podcast and previous episodes. You're doing what? Is it a Throwback Thursday? What are you doing?
It has a little rewind. Salty Believer Rewind.
Salty Believer Rewind.
So what I'm doing, we've been doing this for 12 years. We're coming up on the 26th of January is the 12th birthday of this podcast.
And pretty much every week, right? I know we missed some here and there.
We had a couple, we'd like to be better, but yeah, it's a weekly podcast.
Okay.
It's every week. And so we've had some pretty heavy hitters in the past, which I look back, I'm like, wait a minute, how did we get all those people to get on the podcast, right?
Well, this is a No Frills podcast, but we've made some upgrades over the years. So it used to be a really No Frills podcast.
So we had Al Moeller on, and Jared was with me then, and Jared knew somebody, and he was in town. And we're like, hey, we're doing a podcast, and he had spoken at a church. We had to stack up a bunch of hymnals at that church. We had this little memo recorder sitting on it. A couple of chairs. And Dr. Mueller walks in and goes, is that going to get this? He was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. He was, we've had, we did a lot of the phone ones. And some of them are really hard to hear because this was back when we didn't have Skype or Zoom. 12 years ago, you have your phone and you have the recorder. And our recorder is just a memo type recorder. Holding it over the phone.
Sure.
Trying to pick up the speakerphone. And so you can go back and find. We did that. Some of those sounded okay, some not so good. We had Jeff Orge on one of those on a speakerphone, and the building fire alarm went off, and fire trucks were showing up. We had to evacuate the building, interrupt the middle of the podcast. He goes, that has never happened to me before.
No,
we'll call you back, Dr. Orge.
If something could be said about our podcast, it'd be, that's never happened before.
Unfortunately,
I've never been on a podcast like that.
No, so we had a season. There was a season when we were getting authors on. They're promoting their books. We still have done some of that. We've done some of that. We had Eric Johnson on not long ago.
Now that I'm a permanent co-host, I'm going to be looking at that 600th episode.
You're eyeballing that sucker. Okay, well, anyway, so what I'm doing with those is I'm putting those on the YouTube podcast. So on the SaltyBeliever.com YouTube channel, there'll be a different graphic, and I think
kind of a Salty Believer
rewind. Rewind. That's what it's called.
Bring back some past episodes.
What I call it? Is that what I called it? Rewind.
I hope so, because that's what we're calling it right now.
That's what we're calling it. So, Salty Believer Rewind. Those won't be on the actual. If you subscribe to the podcast, you're not going to get those old ones. But if you want to go find them, or they'll be on the website. I'll post them on the website. But it's kind of fun to listen back through some of those. We had mentioned before, we had Doug Wilson and various seminary presidents and authors. Different
pastors, teachers.
Some people who are not in ministry anymore, some people who passed away, just over the years. And I'd like to, I kind of would be really interested, and we've been joking about it, but I'd be interested in interviewing some of those people again.
No. We've made some jokes in recent weeks about getting some heavy hitters on here again, and you made some phone calls, and I'm, I got to eat my words here, because I hear some of these guys are coming on.
It's coming. We're working on one, but it's funny because we're working on one that would, if we were to get one, I mean, it'd be top-notch celebrity stuff, right? I mean, so in the Christian world. I mean, let's be honest, we're in the Christian world. We're not talking Taylor Swift here.
We might have to put fresh batteries in this memo recorder.
Yeah. But no, that would be good. But the other one, so some of these, there's one, and we haven't got the date dialed in, but he agreed to come. And I'm really excited about it because I think people might know who he is, but he's not the guy, if we walk around the church, everyone know who he is, but I think everybody should know who he is. He's preached an amazing sermon that I've seen recently. He's doing some really cool work. And so I'm really hoping we get that one dialed in. And then, of course, all of our friends at Simeon Trust, we're trying to get, I think we're gonna actually get to have Robert Kenny in person, before we go to the thing.
Direct from Austria.
In Salt Lake, before we go to the Southern Cal thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Anyway.
Well, hey, we're on a tangent now. It's a new year.
Yep.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
As we're talking through this, and kind of along these same lines, let's talk about this last year. Let's look at a year in review.
I think we stopped doing these after 2020. Nobody wanted to review 2020, but okay.
Forget that year.
You're talking
just like what were some of the big highlights for you as far as like things you did, maybe books you read, recommendations as people are looking at, what am I going to do with my time here in 2024? What books am I going to read? What seminars am I going to go to?
Awesome.
What have been some big, this was really great.
So I'm going to put this at the very front. We just talked about it in a podcast not that long ago. The thing that Chad Vegas said, hey, read a little bit of a lot of things and have like a structure of where those things are coming from. Like here's something in my biblical theology category, and here's something in a preaching category, and here's something in systematic theology, and here's a biography or history. I started doing that, and I would say that was probably my favorite way to change my devotional and study time in the year. Not only read like a page from each book.
No, me too.
But it's outstanding. I love it.
We went into more detail on that on a previous podcast episode, but that's been so helpful, just kind of rounding out my quiet time and my devotional time and just having more to it.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm not so burdened by the books when I'm just reading a couple pages. I almost don't want to put it down.
Right, exactly. No, that's what I'm like, I should keep going. But I need to do some other things. So that was Chad Vegas' thing. Yeah. And speaking of Chad Vegas, the Radius International Conference. Oh, yeah. I loved that.
That was really good this year.
You did that with me. We did that
we did that here at the church building. We just live streamed that. We paid to live stream it.
That was really edifying and enjoyable. I really appreciated that this year. Now, it's not a book or something, but then they tipped me off to a book I really appreciated this year, which was Strange New World by Carl Trueman.
See, that's on my list because you read that this year.
Oh, man. So they're the ones that said, "Hey, you should," and it has the bigger version with a different title, and then that smaller one, and they were promoting it at that, and I thought, well, that looks interesting, and so I finally picked it up. So that one, I would definitely say that is a good book. I read a few biographies this year, which I enjoyed. I read this year I read at the beginning of the year, Martin Lloyd-Jones' history, the Ian Hamilton. Is he the one who wrote it?
Did you you didn't do the 2-volume one?
No, I know you have the 2-volume one. I did the one. I did the abridged version.
Yeah, it wasn't Hamilton.
No, it's
I'm drawing a blank.
I know everybody's
unscripted.
Everybody's screaming at the podcast right now. But that was really good. I read a biography on Calvin. I read during my sabbatical. I read
sabbatical this year.
I read John Broadus, and his work was really engaging. Kind of the father of expositional preaching is John Broadus. Yeah. And Spurgeon basically said he was the best preacher of Spurgeon's day.
One thing you told me once that really stuck with me is read who your heroes read.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what I did this year, and I really it really helped me go, okay, now I really get. And I'm coming late to the party, but I started reading Graham Goldsworthy, some of his work this year. Again, reading some of the other people's heroes. I'm like, he's been really interesting. I was introduced to
Ian McMurray.
Yes.
Wrote biology.
That's not who I was introduced to. I can't remember who the
Nathan.
Biblical theology guy, Nathan. He does a lot with the Simeon Trust, but I read one of his books. I can't remember for the life of me because it was a while back. How about you, man? What did you read this year?
I'm just excited to hear you got to read all these fun books. I was in seminary,
but you graduated.
So I was reading textbooks all year.
What was the best? What was the best textbook read?
The one that really stuck with me the most was my theology book. This one that I just read, A Theology for Today, I think for the church today. Daniel Aiken.
He's the editor. But there's a bunch of articles from people, right?
But everybody contributed to that, Al Mohler and that, and so that was really helpful. It was the first systematic theology book that I've read cover to cover.
Nice.
You said before you read Wayne Groom's systematic theology.
That's because that was what was assigned.
That was the standard.
That one and Millard Erickson.
So
those were the two.
Along the lines with that Chad Vegas thing, I'm looking forward to doing some more systematic theologies and kind of working through those a little bit at a time.
Kind of firing up with Calvin's Institutes just a little tiny bit at a time because I decided to throw that one in there. I've read a lot of the theologies you read in parts. You don't read the whole thing.
Right.
No, that's really good. We don't have like the Mark Dever, here's what you should do. In January, read the gospel, and then read biblical theology, and then read the church membership.
That requires way too much structure for how you and I operate. But what about kind of going, so Bible reading plans? This is the time of year where everyone looks at Bible reading plans.
I feel so bad. My Bible reading plan is not tied to the starts in January. Yeah. A while back, I decided to double up the speed.
Sure.
And so my reading plans change out kind of in the summer because I
like that.
I double them up, and so I'm off.
Every January, we start out in Genesis, and then by like February, it's just cold and dark and wintry, and I'm in like Leviticus, and I just hate my life. So I'd rather read that in the summertime.
No, that's just when it rolls over. But like, so right now, I'm in a chronological plan still, and then I'm in the McChain.
I did the McChain plan this last year, and I'm going to do it again this year. But I'm trying to do more Bible reading, more than just in the morning. So I'm going to do a straight through plan too this next year.
Just double. That's what I do.
The McChaney I'm actually going to do with my Bible open, like marking in my Bible.
That's what I do. Yep.
But I'm going to do a straight through just listening.
That's actually exactly what I do. But it's not a straight through. I'm on a chronological just listening. Yeah. But I like just having this is going to roll when I'm driving, so I don't ever turn the radio on in my car. I just drive.
Well, and for our listeners, like I know you and I both use this app, the Dwell app.
That's super
where you can
helpful.
Listen to it, and it just goes.
So my wife's really excited about the new ESV. They have a new enhanced app for $19 a year, but it has, and I listened to it, and it messed with my brain. It was so awesome. You can have, so the Dwell app has the readers, but the ESV app, you can have Kristen Getty's from the singing, the Getty lady, but you can have the Reeves guy who narrated the Jesus Storybook Bible.
Oh, wow.
That guy can read the whole Bible to you. And I'm like,
that guy has a nice, somber voice. I might fall asleep.
That might be worse. Well, my wife listens to one of the Dwell voices that's like this kind of, it's kind of like Kristen Getty's. And I can't even, it's so hard for me to listen to because it's like the most kind, peaceful, sweet British young woman. You know, it just sounds so nice. And then, and they're dashing their babies across the rocks. I'm like, how are you listening to this?
do you ever do this? I'd like to kind of read from different translations this year.
Yeah. So I have one of I'm doing a ESV from McChaney and a CSB through the read-through. I find that really helpful. I don't know. I mean, everybody always does at the beginning of the year. Here's a whole podcast.
Sure.
There's so many of them. Like we don't need to do
so
it.
Much, right?
Find your reading plan. Go for it. You're gonna. So what are you doing this year? You're gonna do Greek with me, right? Me and.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Daniel, and you, Robbie. I think Brian's gonna
sign up for something in December when you're feeling ambitious. But we're gonna start looking at Greek.
We're going to do Dr. Plummer's book and his program. Because I'm doing it for my son for homeschool.
And Mark Dever always has his recommendations. We've gone through the Healthy Church books before.
He had new recommendations. Did you go to that? Are you going to do the list?
I got the list. I've read a couple of those. I wrote it down.
I've read about half the ones you recommended.
What are you thinking this next year? What are you hoping to read here in 2024? Do you have a list?
I have a stack of books. I want to read the David Livingston biography is in the stack because I saw a little documentary thing in the Epic TV series thing about how Livingston was in Africa. I'm like, this is interesting. I don't know much about him, so I'm going to do that. I am reading the Creeds and Confessions ginormous book that just came out. I can't remember what that's called, which is it's a big book. It's a little daunting, but I'm going to do that for sure. I have a book by Alistair Begg, and I can't remember what it's called. I have that pastor book we're reading as a staff together. We picked.
On Becoming a Pastor.
But I have another one of his books.
Bryan.
Yep. Another one of his books is on my shelf. I keep trying to remember. I don't know. What ends up happening is I get these books I really like. I buy them. I throw them in the stack.
Yeah.
And so my goal is I just keep working that stack. So I can't remember what exactly is all in there. And then I have a bunch of the Puritan paperbacks. I decided this This is going to be the year for more Puritan paperbacks. So I'm going to start working through more of those.
Banner of Truth had a special going on where you could get a really deep discount on some of those.
Somebody used that special to get me some more Banner of Truth books.
A couple
pretty
somebodies.
awesome. Yeah, so I really appreciate that.
You have a great staff.
I do.
I'm excited because this is the first year in like 3 years where I don't have seminary. I don't feel like all my free time's kind of spent with seminary books. So I've got a stack like that too. I want to read the Machen book. Christianity and Liberalism.
I read that last year. That's a good book too. Yeah. And by the way, that won one of the book publishers' Book of the Year awards, which is interesting since it's 100 years old.
100 years old. They just republished that. And I've got his biography I want to read.
That would be interesting too.
That looks good. And then because we watched that Radius conference, I bought a book on a guy I didn't know, John G. Patton. He was a pioneer missionary in... What book was that they were talking about? or whatever. It's his autobiography. So I grabbed that. I want to read Strange New World because you don't stop talking about it.
Yeah, that one. You can't stop talking about that one. That one's awesome.
And then I had a friend Charles give me the book by Stephen Lawson on Martin Lloyd-Jones.
I saw that.
He has that long line of like faithful, obedient guys or something. So
that's the one that I read this last year. And then I read that one too, plus the other one. Yeah. And then I'm reading that one right now, the Calvin one on those faithful.
I can't ever find them. It was like a long line of faithful men. They used to be in print as like a set, and now you kind of get them one-off.
Yeah, I just have them like in Kindle. Or
they're hard to find. But I want to read that.
That's great. How about, so conferences?
Conferences. Well, you talked about that Radius Missionary Conference last year.
Yep. And I hope that if they do it again, we should stream it again.
Well, there's that missionary conference coming
The missionary conference in Fort Lauderdale looks. If you don't know anything about that, just Google missionary conference, and the list of speakers is outstanding. The topics look outstanding. The trailer looks out of this world. That looks like a great conference. So I'd love to go to that if I can find a way to make it work.
Yeah, it's just missionary.net, awesome. I believe, is the website.
Oh, it looks amazing. And,
it's October 16th through 18th. All the heavy hitters are there, like all the heroes of today.
Yep.
John Piper, Steve Lawson, Sinclair Ferguson, Kevin DeYoung. And then Conrad...
I can never say that guy's
I'm not going to mess it up, but Crystal's heard him. My wife, she loves him.
No, I've heard. Yeah,
Brooks Boozer, Mark Dever, Chad Vegas. I mean, yeah. So, but I love that we live in a time where conferences are streamed because I find myself just paying for the streaming package.
Well, I can't.
Or watching them on YouTube later.
At this point, I love being able to do like the church stream package, bring the church, and watch it with friends because I cannot afford to do all the things I want to do. If I do one conference, that's my whole budget. I don't even have enough money for that. But if I can do those, I can get some of that. So, it's kind of tricky.
We talk all the time about our friends at Simeon Trust and their online workshops.
Online courses. The workshops are in person. We're going to one in January, baby.
I'm doing both here in January because I'm doing the online courses in preparation of the in-person workshop.
I forgot about that. I did a bunch of online courses, and I would highly encourage anybody to do that. Those are great. I'm still working on the Prophets, but those are great. I want to finish those out this year. They're great.
I'm in the First Principles, that first course, and it's so helpful. Just the foundational benefits of that course.
The biblical, so you got to do the First Principles first because that sets you up for all the rest of them. Then you can do them in any order. Man, the biblical theology one will blow your mind. That is outstanding. The argument and persuasion, outstanding. I mean, they're just.
Yeah.
The systematic theology's got every heavy hitter theologian lecturing in it you could imagine. I'm like, that. It's amazing.
They've done the legwork to get all the pieces together, get all the guys together, and just.
That is about the best $19 you will ever spend. We need to get David Helm on the podcast because he's one of my heroes. I would love. Yep. That's how we got everybody else before. Is who do we want to talk to?
Yeah.
Who do we want to meet?
Who do you want to hear from? Maybe you could drop us a line, SaltyBeliever.
And also reach out to those people if you know them.
Maybe you're sitting in a car with David Helm right now. You can say, hey.
Hey, David, you should go on this podcast.
Why would you be listening to us if you're in the car with him?
Right.
Whatever. But,
so we got those coming up. That'll be really awesome.
That'll be great. And we'll probably do some podcasts after that, or maybe even on site there. I don't know. That'll be fun.
Well, we have Robert Kenny set up to do stuff with him. He's part of that.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple things locally I'm kind of excited to go to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a thing with some churches kind of up north in Utah. There's some. I heard there's going to be
a Pastors Conference down in Provo this year.
In Provo.
Yeah. So if you're in the Provo area, check that out. First Baptist Provo.
When is that? In April?
I believe so.
It's hosted at First Baptist. So there's just stuff coming up. I feel like it's just really great to start really.
Yeah, we're coming out of Pando.
Getting into the big swing of things. Yeah. Rocking and rolling, reading books, doing all that. Yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool. And then we're anxiously looking forward to the 525th episode of Salty Believer.
Just you wait. This was 524. So
or the 600th. When is this? Let's see. About half a year from now, is that right? A little bit less, about 600th episode. No, that's 75. Next year, 600th episode.
600 episodes if we're still here. And find those Salty Believer rewinds on YouTube. And drop us a line. Let us know what you're reading this year. Maybe you have a book recommendation or a conference you're going to that we should check out. We'd love to hear from you. SaltyBeliever@gmail.com.
Or maybe you're an author who wants us to read your book.
Yeah, we've had authors on here. We've had
tons of authors.
Introducing Christianity to Mormons. That was a great book.
So a while back, and those will be in the rewinds, but like Beckett Cook, he was on here with his book about changing affections. And then that book went on to do super well. That was a fantastic, interesting interview.
This could be a great launching pad to get your book just out there and have it go on to be amazing.
All those authors are like, it was Salty Believer. I'm sure that's
my life changed after that day.
Who are some of the guys? Let's think about some of these authors. Let's see. Pretty sure that's not.
Well, we're out of time. Hey, until next time, 525 episode next coming your way. Until next time.
Thanks for listening. Salty Believer Unscripted is a production of SaltyBeliever.com. Visit the website to find more resources like the podcast you've just listened to.